Hello, my friends. Welcome to the last episode of this, my very first season of the LittleLadyCook podcast. I am JC, la cocinerita, a food history enthusiast, a Panamanian Caribbean cook, and a lover of all the things gastronomy. And today we will talk about patacones, fried green plantains, one of my favorite Panamanian fried foods. I have learned a lot in the past few weeks about all sorts of things: podcasting, audio recording, editing, speaking in general, and of course doing research. And that's been one of my favorite parts of podcasting, the research part of it. I mean, I love the recording, editing, and sharing with all of you. But the research part is because for me, there's like one of those feelings that when you are prepared to take a test. I don't know if you can go back into high school and college years, and when you actually study and you could tackle fully a topic, and it made a huge difference to study, and then when you would take a test. So for me, each episode in a way is my final test. But the difference is that I get to choose what I will be tested on. So it is much more fun. Also, what's funny is that even though I know I'm prepared, the moment I get in front of this microphone, I stutter, I shed my accents. But I actually do those things in person too. So consider yourself that you have had a coffee with me already, or tea, or a drink. Well, I don't really drink much, but anyway, so because if there are two things I never shut up about are horror films and food. So yeah, we've been on dates, friend dates, okay? I'm taken. Now let's get back on the Patacones topic. I have written about this on my blog already, and I remember mentioning how even though I love and totally enjoy eating patacones, eating them and cooking them, of course, I always tend to make more platanitos. Well, growing up back in Panama, because, well, first of all, platanitos is sort of a longer plantain chip, and there are several ways you can make it at home. The fastest way, when you're very hungry, you just, like you grab the plantain. I have a plantain actually with me right now. It's a maduro one, a ripened one, so it's the yellows, not for patacones or platanitos. So I would cut it lengthwise from when you peel off the plantain. You cut it vertical. You grab your knife, you cut try not to pierce beyond the skin, but if you do, not a big deal. And then with the back of a spoon, or I use the knife, or you can use your fingers. Sometimes some plantain is going to give you a hard time. Some people just peel it off with the knife, but unless you have really good skills, you might lose some of the plantain meat. So I just go with the knife itself. Don't get caught, please. So if you want to use the back of a knife, just go with it. And with the green plantain, it should be fine because it's still pretty hard inside. Anyway, so you peel it off. And then for platanitos, you slice it thinly. I would say 1/4 of an inch, 3 millimeters. I'm making up numbers, but I'll go with my eyes, and I know I will slice it thick enough that I can bite into it and feel meaty, but also thin enough that it will cook fast, because that's the whole point of platanitos. But also, the other way you can slice it is more like on a diagonal, or if you want to slice it vertical, it's okay too. But then you will need like a big pot for it to be okay to have such a long slice. So I stick to my regular horizontal cuts of slices, so they actually look like chips, or the diagonal too. And then again, those are plantain chips, platanitos. I will tell you how to make patacones, of course, before the podcast is over. But right now, I'm just gonna share with you a few of my memories of patacones. Let's see. When I was back home, my mom would always make it. It had to be on a weekend, because the thing about patacones is it has several steps. You're gonna compare the way plantain chips, the platanitos, are made versus patacones, and have a better understanding of why. So it takes longer. So it had to be planned. And whatever protein that will go with it, we usually will make it first. Because any fried food, you never wanted it to be sitting too long by itself. It gets soggy, it gets soft. And in our case, rarely, my mom would make too much patacones. That never actually really happened. And if it did, we ate it all anyways. So, but let's say we have some leftovers, then we will use that. My mom will freeze it or put it in the fridge. And whenever she made a soup, she would throw that in there. Because we love root vegetables in our soup. Yuca, potato, taro, or what we call otoe, zapallo, which is some sort of squash, I think. And of course, the classic culantro, but we will talk about Panamanian soups in another episode. But anyway, so whatever leftover fry thing, where it was yuca or it was patacones, like anything plantain, we'll save it and then just throw it in the soup. And it goes great. I didn't used to like it as a kid as much, but then you kind of like grow fond of it and you develop a taste for it. And then you're like, Mom, make extra so we can save it for soup. So speaking of soup with patacones, I know like you've seen this patacón, this plantain, sorry. It's not yellow, it's not green, it's in between. We call it a pinton. Whenever you make a patacón that is like that, they call it, my grandma called it Patacón Pinton. That's what my mom told me. I don't remember calling it Patacón Pinton, but it is a pinton. So anyways, that one, I don't remember liking it as much because the beauty for me of green plantains is how savory it is. So when it's getting a touch of sweet, the moment I feel sweetness in a plantain, I crave for rice and beans, or rice and lentils, or rice and peas, and pork and meat. I crave it more as a different, to go with different food. But that's a personal, my brother, my mom, my dad, they will kill for those. So I never fought over those. For me, it's just the greenest, the better the patacón. Okay, so going back to the other ways that we will eat it. The sides for patacones, my personal favorite ones are any meats that have sauce, because we are huge in dipping things. We love all sorts of sauce in our food, whereas we're eating rice or bread or plantains or anything like that. We like guisado, which is what we call anything that has a sauce. So in the case of patacones, if it's breakfast, we tend to have, like we grew up eating this, when there was money, with salchichas, which is some sort of links, like hot dog links. So we will slice them, cook them, and make a guisado, salchichitas guisadas. That's, I think, one of the most popular one. I actually posted this question on hojaldre the other day. Hojaldre is our Panamanian fry bread. And I was asking people, what is their favorite, the best way to eat hojaldres is with? And then many people say salchichas guisadas. So we love our hot links sliced in a sofrito with the onion and tomato and the peppers and the hichombo and tomato paste, chicken stock or cubito, whatever you have. And by cubito is like some sort of nor. That's a brand here in America, I think. In Panama, I think we have Knorr now, but we use more Maggi, Maggi everything. And so if you don't have chicken stock and all these things to add delicious seasoning, you tend to use MSG. I think that has MSG, so that's a flavor enhancement thing. So yeah, don't kill me for that. We're all fine at home eating all that stuff, and we love it. Okay, so salchichas or chorizo if you are fancy. If you went to the country and you happen to buy some delicious chorizo tableño, that stuff is the bomb. If my mom loves beef liver, so that will make it also like beef liver and onions. That will make kind of a browner sauce because of the meat. But that one is delicious with patacones too. Let's see. All of this is for breakfast. Of course, fried eggs is delicious. Kids tend to love a lot of ketchup. I used to be ashamed of that, but I don't really care. And I think you guys have heard me already my opinion on ketchup. It's just a condiment. So get over yourself. You're not better than ketchup. And for mustard, once I was able to afford better mustards, eating them with patacones is so good for breakfast. And queso, oh my God, I forgot queso. Queso blanco or any yellow cheese that you can afford. And for me, if you hear me talking, I always go back to talking about affordability. When I was a kid, sometimes we have enough just for 3 slices, so we have to cut the slices and share, whether it was like Kraft singles or where it was queso blanco. And I remember going to the tiendita, to the little shop by our neighborhood, and sometimes having enough money just to buy 2 slices of queso blanco and 2 slices of yellow cheese. I'll bring it home, and that was it's so funny. It will be leaking because queso blanco is like really high water moisture. It's very moist. So I'll bring it back home, and then we cut it and have to share. But I appreciate those times. It really it helps you to appreciate what you have now. I don't think everyone should go through that. It's not the greatest, but if you do, then it gives you perspective. So you make the best of whatever you go through. Anyways, going back to the funner part of growing up. So yeah, so there's all that. But if you have patacones for lunch or dinner, which can also happen as a side dish, then there are several ways. You can make, again, guisado, but with gallina. So chicken, let's do pulled chicken, but with a stew, spicy sauce, tomato, usually tomato base. On garlic, we use like other vegetables as well. For me, when I was a kid, I wasn't so crazy about some vegetables. So my mom will blend out, make a puree, and then I'll eat my vegetables. And with patacones like that, or beef, ropa vieja, If you're familiar with that dish, I think it's actually very popular in the whole Caribbean. More known from the Cubans, I think, or from the Puerto Rico. I think the Cubans, yeah. People tend to talk more about ropa vieja from the Cubans. I don't really know if they brought it to Panama. I actually do some research about that, but I would not be surprised considering that we got a lot of a big migration from Cuba, and they brought delicious food. So I will forever be thankful for that. Anyway, so there's the ropa vieja, the pulled beef, the chicken with fried fish. People, oh yeah, that's how also when you go to the beach in Panama and you order patacones, they will say, what do you want, pescado frito, which is fried fish, or camarones al ajillo, which is shrimp and garlic sauce and olive oil or butter and culantro and all these things, very garlicky, always lime on the side. Deditos de pescado, which is like, I guess, fish sticks, but our way. And for those who don't eat seafood, because there's always someone who doesn't eat fish or seafood in general, so they will have, I don't think, depending on the location, like if it's a restaurant, they have all this equipment, so they will have much more options. They will have ropa vieja, they will have the chicken in a stew, they will have all these other sides that you can order. But if they just have a deep fryer, which is what you need for patacones and for other fried foods at the beach, you probably just can find either fried chicken or chicken fingers. I know some places are more buying commercialized, so they buy whatever things are ready from the produce section things versus homemade. So whenever you go out to eat, just watch up your options. I don't need anything else to enjoy my patacones as long as I add some salt to it. Even if it's very fresh, even if you fry properly, for me, it's just like a very dense food. So that's why I really enjoy dipping in something and putting some melted cheese on top, or just even with a hot sauce. It's so good, or with a relish, not a sweet one, more of a very acidic one. At least that's my personal preference. And for the last memories, I will share with you and how something I think is extremely important when making patacones, the quality of your oil. Even if it's the cheapest oil, I have no problems with using vegetables, canola, that's what probably use. If you get lard, I'm sure it must be delicious. But it has to be it's deep frying. So you have to make sure that it's an oil that it's proper for frying, that can withstand long time and in high heat. And if it's an oil that is clean also. Because I remember going to Pueblo Nuevo, and I remember going to a kiosquito, and there was a lady in there selling fritangas, which is frituras. We call them more like frituras in Panama, the fried foods. She would sell everything fried. Fried bread, hojaldre, patacones, fried yuca, fried chorizo, fried salchicha, fried chicken. I mean, anything that you can imagine, but fried. So sometimes I will have 15 cents extra or 25 cents extra. Oh, and she had a little cooler so she could keep some queso, some cheese. And I remember trying to figure it out if her oil was fresh or not. Even as a kid, it's so interesting. As a kid, you're just, nah, on Tuesdays it tends to suck or whatever. And then you figure it out now when you get a little bit snobbier as an adult. And I remember then going there and buying this and tasting it. And it's not rancid or anything like that, but you can taste this oil has worked a little bit. So I remember then giving it to my cousin and, oh man, I'm gonna have to drench this in cheese. And I don't have enough money for cheese because cheese tends to cost the same or even more expensive. So you really have to pick your battles for this. Or drenching it in ketchup and hot sauce or something like that, because I will be very disappointed. So that's why the oil matters very, very much. I'm gonna go right now. It should take no longer than 20 minutes to do from start to the end of it. Make sure that your first time that you're making green plantains, I suggest the protein that's gonna go with it to keep it simple. So have a cheese option if you love cheese, your ketchup, mustard, mayo, whatever you want for dipping it. Make sure that you have a hot sauce option. Please try hot sauce. Picante, delicioso, so freaking good. Make sure it's habanero. That is the closest to a Panamanian hot sauce. Make sure that you have your pot with oil. It's hard for me to recommend how big your pot, how much oil. I fry in a 4 quart, I think it's 4 quart or no, 2 quart. I try to use my smallest pot because then with that oil, even if it's clean, I don't want to be reusing it too many times. So I try to use as little oil as possible. And unless you're cooking for a huge family or for a huge event, you don't want to use a whole bottle of oil on this. Anyways, this is what we're going to do. 2 green plantains, fry in oil. salt and pepper. I like to add pepper to mine. Traditionally, people don't add pepper to the plantains. When you go to most places, they have pepper on the table, but they don't add it to the fried stuff, to the fried food. That's something I like to do. So you peel. We already went through the peeling the plantain. I told you how to go from a vertical slice, remove it with the back of the spoon or with your knife, don't get caught. Slice your plantains around an inch. And then once your oil is hot, and again, like I have said before, when frying food, drop one. If it's not frying, take it out and then dry it so it doesn't start soaking that oil. And then until you're sure that it's hot. Fry a few at a time. Make sure that you don't fill up your pot because you need the patacones to the oil to touch all of it so it can brown evenly. And also if you add too many of them, and more if you took it out of the fridge, because sometimes I take out mine out of the fridge, so it's pretty cold and it's gonna take a while for it to get brown. So I don't want to put too many at one time in the pot. You don't want your oil to get cold. Okay, so let's say you throw a few pieces, you get them yellow, brown, and I'm gonna put, I actually already have a blog post on how to step by step how to fry plantains, so you're not alone. And I really want people to eat more plantains. I have noticed the price here is pretty friendly. If more people eat it, it's even gonna get cheaper. Can you imagine that? People eating plantains everywhere? Oh my God, I'm gonna have a heart attack. Anyway, so you fry it. Once it starts getting a little bit brownish, you pull it, you take it out. This is when it gets tricky. You don't want your oil extremely hot because this is just not a one-time fry. You need to make sure that it's cooking a little bit inside, but not all the way through. Because with patacones, we smash them. And they call, in other countries, they call patacones tostones. So yes, order them, patacones or tostones, whatever you see them. So yeah, you fry them, you take them out. And right away, while they're hot, it's important to smash them because if it gets too cold, it starts getting hard again. So you smash it. The way I like to smash it is I grab the bottle, the bottom of a big glass. If you have a glass bowl, if you have just a regular glass, your measuring cup, you know, the ones that is 2 cups, that size is good enough. Whatever you have. And I tend to oil it a little bit because sometimes when you mash it, you'll see once it gets mashed, some of the meat comes out and that one is not fried, so it's a little bit sticky and you don't want it to stick to the bottom of the surface of whatever you're using to smash them. Some people have gadgets for that. I am not very huge on gadgets. I use whatever I have. My kitchen's pretty tiny, so I try to be careful with that. So yeah, you smash them while they're hot, and then you fry them all, and then you smash them all. You wait for the oil to get back to, you know, to the mood. And then also, well, I'm gonna be on the smash them part, which is very, very, very important. Let's say that when you're smashing it and it starts breaking in your hand, because it should stay the one piece. It's just gonna, you like my sound effects? So it's gonna be smashed. It's gonna be one big patacón. But if you didn't fry long enough, it's totally raw. And what happens when you mashed a raw plantain? It's gonna break apart. If that happens, then throw them a few more seconds inside until the smash. It's gonna tell you that it's perfect. Okay. And if you don't wanna do that, just make sure that the next time that because it has a double fried. You might have to fry it longer because trust me, you do not want to eat raw green plantain. The yellow one, yeah, you can do that because it's softer and it's sweet, but the green plantain raw, no. Anyway, so let's say all of them are smashed and perfect. Then you fry them again until they're cooked all the way through and they're golden brown. So the first time frying, 2 to 3 minutes. The second time frying, 1 to 2 minutes. Once they're done and your second fried step, then you take them out, put in paper towel, on top of paper towel so they drain some of the oil. You sprinkle your salt and pepper if you want. That's what I was mentioning, that it's important to have your meat dish, eggs, cheese, whatever that you're gonna eat it with ready. Because once those patacones are ready, you want to dig in right away. You might want to wait a few seconds so you don't burn your tongue, but it's like pizza. It's the greatest in the first few minutes. After that, it's not bad, but fried food is always best as soon as it's ready. And yeah, that's it. That's how you fry patacones. There's other options that will not be a patacón, but you can use this sort of same directions, the same instructions. You can make them bigger, and you can, before doing the second fry, you can shape it into a little basket. Whereas like some people do it in the oven, some people just do it with their fingers and they push it like that, and then they do the second fry and it looks like a basket. I have done it to use it to serve ceviche or little shrimp in sofrito or chorizo, very well a tiny chopped chorizo with sofrito and or cheese. So these baskets are great for party. It's gonna be tricky that it's gonna get cold, but since it has the sauce on top and all the cheese or all these other things, even the ceviche, it's gonna keep it a little bit wet. So it's still gonna be delicious. If you have a party and you wanna show off, I have worked on other dishes that are way more, that require way much more work. But people always go crazy over the little canastitas de patacones, the little patacones baskets stuffed with. Again, I think people's favorite has been chorizo because chorizo can stay room temperature really easily. Well, with ceviche, is something that you have to eat pretty quickly. Okay, a few notes on frying patacones before I finish with this, with my recipe. I try to do when you do the first frying in advance, because sometimes we want to save time. And I can tell when restaurants do this, when fondas do this, because the flavor is just different. Maybe we have to find a way to improve our refrigeration system for this. But let's say you're like, oh, tomorrow I have a party and I'm making a bunch of patacones. So you want to do the first frying today and then tomorrow do the second part? No. I mean, I try. Maybe I'm not doing it right. But the results were not really satisfactory because the oil, it just gets inside and it stays there. It changes the texture. It changed the flavor. So for me, it doesn't work. And patacones the next day, for me, they don't work either. I don't like them like that again the next day. Any leftover, I first them and then I throw it on soup. For those who want to try frying green plantains, but they are afraid of doing patacones because of how much work it might take, just do the platanitos, slice them smaller and then try that way to see how that goes. Do your platanitos or do your patacones not 1 inch, do a half an inch. Don't go that thick if you are having a hard time knowing if when they're cooked properly inside before you smash them. And if they get yellow, pinton, it's okay. The plantain's gonna be softer though. So just be careful when you are smashing them because they might go all the way through. I really wanted to keep this podcast short now that I finished talking about patacones because I want to encourage you to make a Panamanian dish. That will be so dreamy for me. Whether you make it or whether the next time you see, if you're lucky enough to find a Panamanian restaurant, have a Panamanian friend who cooks, or visit my country, it will be amazing if you can get to try any of these dishes that I've talked about or that I will keep talking in the upcoming episodes. So please go ahead, take a chance. Make it at home. If you the next time you see it, just you need to buy just one. You don't need to buy a bunch of plátanos, and try it at home and see how that goes for you. If you're gonna make it and you go through my blog and the recipe and you still have a few questions before getting your hands in, but trust me, the best way is just doing it. If my blog wasn't clear enough on a few things, or you still are wondering, then go to YouTube. Some people do better watching videos. That's how I actually started learning how to make bread. Was by watching YouTube. It's really, really helpful. And you can see how people manipulate some of some produce, some foods in general. And it makes you feel more comfortable. And I really appreciate everyone who has listened to my podcast. This is, again, like I mentioned, my first season. And this time, in this last one, I didn't go into the history of the plantains itself or the dish or the Patacón dish itself. That's homework for me that I have to keep researching. I heard, it came from Southeast Asia, but also now that part of Southeast Asia is Indonesia, Malaysia. But also I heard it came from India. So I want to make sure that I do proper research. I'm going to study harder. I really enjoy this. I really appreciate anyone who has listened to my words, to my thoughts and my perspectives. Time is something so precious that we don't get back. So I really try to be as concise as possible and not to ramble or mumble as much as, avoid that as much as I can. And with that being said, thank you. And I will probably take a break of a week or two, post it on my Twitter. I created a Twitter for the podcast. It's LittleLadyCooks. So it's the same as my blog, but with an S. My personal one is just LittleLadyCook. So on the LittleLadyCooks, I can spam people for them to try to listen to my podcast or sharing those podcasts that I've been listening to. If you have a specific topic that you would like me to do research about and share, please send me a tweet or send me a message on Instagram under LittleLadyCook. And that's it. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll probably come back, not next week, but the week after that or the week after that. Hopefully before February is over with my new season and hopefully better voice. Just joking. My voice is going to be the same, so get used to it. A comer. Bye.